Hare Krishna. हरे कृष्णा माता जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्णा माता जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, can we start? Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Desha Tarine. Okay. Yeah, I agree with Rishabh Prabhu. I would really appreciate if you can turn your camera on. And some of you have never even seen what you look like. You know, today is the 5th class and I haven't seen you at all. So please switch on your cameras so we can have a more personal interaction. Zoom by itself is such an impersonalistic tool, and please don't make it even more impersonal by switching off your cameras. Thank you. Okay, so we covered till the 30th verse of 9th chapter yesterday. Does anyone remember anything? A quick recap.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, we studied about the signs of Mahatma. Who is a Mahatma? The one who surrenders completely, doesn't divert his attention other than Krishna, meditate only on Krishna, always in service of Krishna. And what activities Mahatma do? Always glorify Krishna, chant the set rounds, follow the rules and regulation of Krishna consciousness. Then we also discussed about some the three types of impersonalist worshippers, who worships oneself with the Lord, and then demigod worshipper and Vishwarup worshipper, the universal form worshippers.
Yes, and then we also discussed the practice of those who worship the universal form, was their practice. And then Krishna also talked about the demigod worshippers and in a way criticized them. And then he also talked about Ananya Bhakti in 26th verse, where he talked about that what he actually accepts is love and devotion. So that's what we had discussed. And in the 27th verse, he gave us a little lower standard of Nishkam Karma Yoga. And after that, in the last verse that we discussed yesterday, it was about how by the potency of bhakti, a devotee, even if he falls down accidentally, he's saved. He's protected because Krishna protects him. So we discussed that. And in continuation, Krishna will speak and give even more of an assurance to a devotee that when somebody is engaged in bhakti yoga, how he is protected. So if somebody can start reading, we will start.
Which verse, Mataji?
31.
30. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kunteya pratijanai na me bhakta punashyati. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes.
Yeah. So we heard in the last verse where he said that even if one commits an abominable action, but if he's engaged in devotional service with determination, I consider him as a sadhu because he's properly situated in his determination. Right? So this is what Krishna had said in the last one. Now he's saying that such a person, even if he has some kind of a fall down, some accidental fall down, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace because my devotee never perishes. So our acharyas say that Krishna here tells Arjuna to declare it. He could have said that I'm saying that my devotee shall never perish. But Krishna is telling Arjuna, you please declare. You please declare, because everybody knows that Krishna sometimes breaks his vows to keep the vows of his devotees. So if Arjuna says that, then to keep Arjuna's vow, Krishna will break his vow. So it's even more firm if a devotee declares, right? If Arjuna says that Krishna's devotees shall never perish, then it is kind of set in stone, because Krishna will make sure that that an utterance of his devotee is always complied with. And when we see such a verse, we sometimes think, oh, what does he mean by my devotee never perishes? What does he really mean when he says that? So anybody wants to guess what he means?
Protection, Mataji.
Protection, how? What kind of protection? Anandita?
Hare Krishna, Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
This means that Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad that the whatever degree of Krishna consciousness he or she has done will be protected, and then in the next life he or she will start from that. And the second thing, in one of the shlokas, Prabhupada writes that soul will not degrade to the lower species of life.
That soul will not degrade and his bhakti will be protected. Whatever devotee does in this life, when he takes another birth, his bhakti will be protected. Okay, good. Jai Brita Prabhu?
Yeah, I think Mataji has already covered it. It's like 2.40. There is no loss of divinity. We're just reconfirming that in the sloka.
Yeah. Yes. And also our acharyas comment that when he says that my devotee shall never perish, it means that I shall protect the consciousness of my devotee. At the time of death, I will protect his consciousness. He doesn't have to worry about that. So I will protect his bhakti. I will protect his consciousness. That's what the vow is. It's not about the physical body. Sometimes, devotees may just take it literally and say, okay, Krishna said my devotee never perishes. But in this material world, everyone has to die one day. So this is not a promise regarding our protection of our physical body. Sometimes Krishna even protects that, but it is more about the protection of our consciousness, our bhakti. So this is what Krishna is assuring here, that a devotee who's engaged in devotional service, he very quickly becomes righteous. He very quickly gets rid of all the faults that he has and comes to the platform of lasting peace. That means comes back to my personal abode. And my devotee shall never perish. I always take care of my devotee. So Prabhupada says in the purport, towards the middle of the purport, he says, according to the Vedas, there are certain regulations that if one falls down from his exalted position, he has to undergo certain ritualistic processes to purify himself. But here there is no such condition, because the purifying process is already there in the heart of the devotee, due to his remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare should be continued without stoppage. This will protect a devotee from all accidental fall downs. He will thus remain perpetually free from all material contaminations. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very nice pastime of Subudhi Roy. That Subudhi Roy was associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the Nawab used to work for him when he was a small child. And then later on, when Muslims got to rule in Bengal, that Nawab was made the caretaker of the government, the Muslim government in Bengal, that side. And one day when he was changing his clothes, his wife saw some marks on his body, on his back. And she asked, like, what are these marks? How did you get these marks? And then he said that I used to work for Subudhi Roy when I was a child. And once he got angry with me and he beat me. And those are the marks from that beating. So his wife said, oh, really? How can you now let him live? You should kill him. Now you have the power to do so. And then Nawab said, no, I don't want to kill him because he treated me like his child. And it was really my fault. It was my mistake. And that is why he punished me. So then the wife said that, but you should do something. You know, he punished you like this. You should do something. Okay, if you don't want to do anything else, at least make him a Muslim. And in those days, if a Muslim threw water on a Hindu, that Hindu was considered to have converted his religion and become a Muslim. So that's what the Nawab did. He threw some water on Subudhi Roy, and the entire society kind of like considered him as a Muslim and sidelined him. And he didn't know what to do. So he went to different people, different kind of sadhus or pandits, and asked them, what should I do? I don't want to be a Muslim. I want to come back to my original religion. I don't want to practice the Muslim religion. So somebody said something. Somebody said, you drink boiling ghee, and that will leave your life. Just leave your body. Drink boiling ghee. And that way they suggested a few things like, this is how you die. You just, die now. There's no other option. So when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag, and he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this has happened, what should I do? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, just chant and follow the process of devotional service. Everything will be all right. You don't really need to do anything else, because that's the power of bhakti. And here also Prabhupada is saying that for a devotee or anybody else, if you have done anything wrong, there's no reason for you want to go for a prayashchit. What is the greatest prayashchit? What is the greatest prayashchit? To chant the holy name and to continue in devotional service with determination. Anandita?
Mataji, you just mentioned that devotees say for body. How should we understand? To protect the body means what? It has to die one day.
Yeah, but sometimes the devotees think that, especially we saw that a lot during Corona times, COVID times, devotees were leaving their bodies, and some people are getting bewildered that, why is Krishna not protecting these devotees? How come they are leaving their bodies like this? So that's why I mentioned that the protection is actually of the consciousness and bhakti. Sometimes Krishna protects the body also, but not always. So one should not place one's faith in protection of the body. Okay?
Yes, Mataji, I just had a query from the yesterday's session when you were mentioning that Mukundpriya Mataji asked that we are not the devotees, like me, I'm not the devotee, I'm just a practicing sadhak. And you were mentioning that ye yathamam prapadyante, right? So you said the degree of level of surrender, and to that degree Krishna reciprocates. So when I've understood that point, but what my question is that the rest of the thing, suppose I'm trying to surrender to 10%. So the 90% of the things comes out due to karma or what?
90% of the surrender that doesn't happen. You're asking that?
Yeah.
That actually, yes, we have our past sanskars. We have our own desires, anartha, sanskars, which hold us back, due to which we are not able to surrender to the Lord, because there are certain desires that we want to fulfill, and that stops us from surrendering to the Lord. And there are also past sanskars due to which we're not able to. And then there are also anarthas. They're kind of all combined together, and due to which we are not able to surrender. So we hold back. We think that we somehow have this hope that there is still something to enjoy in this material world, and due to which we don't want to surrender. It is not that Maya is holding on to us, it is we holding on to Maya, not letting her go. Right?
So, Mataji, thank you for clarifying this point as well. But the karma that we are getting, the suffering in whatever form. So we should understand that this is because of our karma, since we have not taken 100% surrender.
How it works is once we come into devotional life, especially once we get initiated, Krishna takes away all. We hear that Guru takes the karma, right? So Krishna takes that storage of karma and keeps it with him. And then he sees that, okay, Anandita needs to learn a lesson now. So he takes some of that karma and give you that lesson, that, okay, learn this lesson now. But that karma is being managed by Krishna. It is not an automatic fructification of some karma. It is being managed by Krishna to teach us a lesson so that we learn that lesson and go closer to him. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. The same thing Prabhupada mentions in Tattena Compensus.
Pratyekanukampam susikshmanu bhunjane vatmakritam vibhakam.
The purport he mentions the same thing. Thank you.
Yeah. Mandaleshwar Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Done.
Mataji, exactly if Krishna is telling like this, means the devotee may use wrong utilize also, no? This verse sentence. They
How?
can use. If he says that any mistake if I committed also, you can, it is like elephant bath again. We are doing practice and doing devotional practice, and again you are doing same mistakes.
If you are doing devotional practice sincerely, then we will get rid of that proclivity to commit that mistake again and again. Devotion, that's what we learned, right? I think two days back, that devotional service actually purifies us of all four kind of stages, 4 levels or 4 stages of sinful reaction. So it is not just prarabdha, it is also kutam and bijam. The proclivity goes. Yeah.
But
So that is the actual repentance. That's the actual prayashchit.
But neophyte people also think that I am a devotee, and if we practice that Krishna anyway protect his devotee, then he can misunderstand this statement.
And that's the 7th offense. That's what we discussed yesterday. If
Yes,
that's the 7th offense, and 7th offense,
okay.
Prabhupada says is extremely deadly. You know, one should not commit offense like that. It is extremely deadly. It's very detrimental. So a devotee, that's the reason we chant almost, in all the temples in the morning, we chant all the 10 offenses. It serves as a reminder that not to act in that way because it's an offense. Is that okay?
Yes, Mother. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. And also from yesterday, there was this confusion about Arjunacharya's story. And Anandita Madhuri was suggesting that, she has heard another version. The version she had heard was Jayadev Goswami. The one I mentioned was Arjunacharya, and the version she was mentioning was Jayadev Goswami, where Jayadev Goswami comes back in the form, where Krishna comes in the form of Jayadev Goswami and actually corrects that. So that was Jayadev Goswami. So the story is quite similar. So there can be confusion. I also somehow got confused. And then later on, I realized, no, that was Jayadev Goswami. And the drama that happens in Champahati is Jayadev Goswami because that was his residence. So Arjunacharya's story is similar, but in Arjunacharya's story, these 2 boys come carrying the load on their back. And Jayadev Goswami had written a line, Dehi tava pada pallava udaram. And that was something that he had cut, and then Krishna had come and removed that cut and accepted that, yes, I serve the lotus feet of my devotees. Okay. All right. So we can go to 32nd verse.
Hare Krishna Maji, Pranam Nari.
Hare Krishna, Pranam. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mam hi pata vyapashritya yepi syu papayonayaha striyo vaishya satha shudras tepi yanti param gatim. O son of Pratha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, merchants, and shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination.
Yeah, so he's saying that there is no distinction whereas wherever bhakti is concerned, there's no distinction. Anybody can take that process, they take up to this process and they can attain supreme destination. So the difference is in material conception. You know, somebody is considered as Shudra, somebody is considered as Vaishya, somebody is considered as a woman, and somebody is considered as a Chandal. That's a material conception. But in spiritual conception, each and everyone is a soul, and each and everyone can reach supreme destination. So when Krishna is saying this, in effect, he's trying to say that according to me, there is no distinction. Whoever takes up this process, even materially, they may be considered very low, but they can attain supreme destination. Jai Advaita Prabhu, you have a comment? Question? You are on mute. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. This is by far the most controversial slokas in the non-devotee world, especially amongst the people who know a thing or two about Gita, and they just point out to this particular sloka that Gita is very discriminative. It's genderism, like, especially all the, in the West, I hear this a lot, like all the, the male-female equality. I think it's prevalent in India also. So how shall we explain to them that it's not discriminative? It's not.
It is not discriminative because Krishna is, like you say, an equal opportunity employer. He's saying that materially you may be considered as low-born, as a Chandal, as a Shudra, because in the Vedic society, all these people were considered as of low birth. So Krishna is making it very that in terms of Varnashram, these people may be considered low-born, but according to me, they can all attain supreme destination. I don't make that distinction. And Prabhupada in his commentaries has many times said that we see each and everybody on the level of soul. We don't discriminate on the basis of body. And that's what the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is all about. If one has
they don't see the positive side, which is, of course, equal opportunity employer and everything. They see why there is a distinction between man and woman,
is
especially the feminist ideology. Yeah.
Especially in the families?
The feministic ideology, they are like, hate this shloka. They don't like it. They say, why they're calling women low class?
So first of all, they have not really understood the essence of this verse. If they are really criticizing this verse, they have not really understood the essence of this verse. Krishna is making it very clear that according to me, there is no distinction. According to me, all of them can get supreme destination. He's not saying, oh, you're a Chandal, you're a woman, you have to take birth again. One more time. You have to be born in a high, you must be born in a high family, or you must be born as a male to get salvation or to get the supreme destination. He's not saying that. He's saying wherever you are, whoever you are, whether low-born, high-born, whoever, you can get supreme destination. So one has to understand this in the right spirit. And second of all, in the Vedic society, they're in Varnashram system, these people are considered as low-born because women traditionally are seen as more emotional, instead of men being more logical and women being more emotional. So they were not really considered as right candidates to get Vedic knowledge. So that is why they're considered as low-born, for no other reason. It is just that their intelligence is of a different quality. It is more EQ, and men have more IQ. But nowadays, if you look at the society, people understand that EQ is also required to, maybe sometimes even more than IQ, to have meaningful relationships, to actually understand how to make things work. Your emotional quotient has to be properly developed. So, and Prabhupada, there's an instance where the first time that Prabhupada gave the second initiation, you may be aware of this, and the two devotees, they came to know, these men came and said, oh, we are getting second initiation, but women can't get second initiation. They came and told these two Matajis. So these two Matajis, they went to Prabhupada and they said, Prabhupada, we are hearing that you are giving them second initiation. and that you're not going to give it to us because women are not supposed to get it. So Prabhupada said, if you consider yourself a woman, then you are not really fit to get second initiated. If you are in that bodily conception, because one has to understand that this is just an outer covering. Inside, we are all souls. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna. We are all meant to serve him. And we are all Prakriti. We may have outside, we may have a male body or a female body, but actually all of us have the same constitution of Prakriti. Purusha is only Krishna. He is the only enjoyer. We are just supposed to serve him. And actually, when you read the scriptures in the right mood and with the right attitude, this is not disturbing at all. And Prabhupada says that because women are simpler, they are more emotional, it is easier for them to take on to bhakti. They don't have so many ifs and buts. They accept the process of bhakti more easily. And we can see that all across. Wherever there is a gathering of devotees, more than 50% is women. Because for them, it is very easy to accept because they're simpler. They don't use their, they don't analyze it to death. That, okay, no, what will happen then and what will, they hear and it makes sense, they accept. They don't have, they don't go around questioning. So for women, it is easier. Prabhupada even said once when the first batch of Russians landed in Mayapur, not Russians, first batch of devotees landed in Mayapur, and it had been raining in Mayapur and Prabhupada was there, and they got down from the bus and all the men, because the roads were wet and, there was mud on the road and, they were just looking here and there. And Prabhupada was standing in front. And all the women, they just went down and paid obeisances, and men didn't do it. That, our dhoti is going to get spoiled. So women did it, but men didn't do it. And Prabhupada said, these women are going back home back to Godhead. Because their consideration is not that our dhotis are not going to look good. So, men analyze too much. So for them, it's more difficult to go back home, back to Godhead. So if we see it in the right perspective, it is not really a problem. But if we pick it up and say, oh, you know what? Krishna is saying that women are of low birth, but we don't read the second line. He's saying they are considered low birth materially, but spiritually, which is obviously a higher platform. I don't make any distinction. We are spirits. So spiritually, Krishna does not make any distinction.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's mainly, especially when we do book distribution, when, you do meet that odd person, in the public, especially most of the time, the surprising part is most of them are of Indian origin in the West. And they bring this up, like, why are we being called low class, like low birth and blah, blah, blah. So
it's in the Vedic society. It is in the Vedic society. In today's time, it's not really considered like that. But in Vedic society, when the Vedic system was prevalent, and that's why women were not sent to Gurukul, they were educated at home. And, that's how the Vedic society was structured. Things are very different now. There's nothing called a Vedic society anymore. Things are very different now. So, and one should not really take it literally. One should understand what Krishna is really trying to say. So when you go for book distribution and people raise these kind of objections, then one should explain to them that this was for Vedic society and at an external platform. Internally, we are all spirits, and Krishna does not make distinction. We are all his part and parcels. And we all have the same constitution. We are all Prakriti to be enjoyed. Purusha is only one, Krishna. Okay. Anandita Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. But the neophytes, the general public do not understand the spiritual platform. They identify with their bodily platform and they compare that women have studied so much. They have gone so far. They are on the entrepreneurs levels and all that.
And that is why it's actually very important to give them the science of soul first. Because that's the same Krishna who in the second chapter has said that, everyone is a soul and this body is just a covering. We are all souls, and Krishna actually relates to us at the level of the soul, not on the level of the body. So we have to kind of educate them in the science of soul first so that they can really understand who they are. And they can, even though it's not so easy not to identify with the outer body, but at least if you have the conception, the acceptability will be a lot more. Is that okay?
Yeah, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So Prabhupada says in the purport, it is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service, there is no distinction between lower and higher class of people. So Prabhupada says that in the material conception of life, there are such divisions, but for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. So it's a very important thing to remember. And now we can go to the next shloka, where he talks about those of higher birth, that who have more opportunity to study Shastra. See, lower birth in Vedic society, people in Shudra or women were not really exposed so much to Vedas or exposed so much to, studying Shastras. They basically very rarely read Shruti. They mostly read the Smriti Shastras. So here, Krishna is going to say that even those who have read Shruti Shastras, for them also, it's very easy to reach, and those who don't reach Shruti Shastra, but if they perform my devotional service, they can get supreme destination. Mandaleshwar Prabhu?
Exactly, if we seen Eklavya was not caliber to take the Vidya in Dronacharya time because he was in low-born or he was, and Karna also could not take the Kshatriya because
externally, it seems like low-born in the sense, how is low-born really decided? In Vedic society, the Guru who used to decide that by looking at the gunas, what is the most prevalent guna in this child? The Guru used to make that distinction that if this child is mostly in passion and ignorance, he is a Vaishya. But he is in higher modes, then he is either a Kshatriya or a Brahmana. So in case of both Eklavya and Karna, it's basically their gunas that they are not fit to be Kshatriyas. And if they learn that art, then they are not going to be able to use it properly. They are going to create a havoc in the society. And that was the purpose for not giving them that art or teaching them that art. And they were trying to actually get it through, not so proper means. And that also shows that they were not properly situated. Okay? All right. 33.
Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta raja sayastatha anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajaswamam. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me.
Yeah, so now he's saying that when, those people who are not exposed to Shastras, who are not exposed to Gurukuls, if they can get supreme destination, then what to say about those who've been practicing properly, those saintly kings who are practicing according to the Brahmanas? For them, it's obviously they are going to achieve supreme destination if they practice the path of Bhakti. And Prabhupada says in the purport, in the first paragraph, the world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. He says anityam. He does not say mithya, he says anityam. And Prabhupada is going to throw some light on this. Some philosophers, especially Mayavadi philosophers, say that this world is false. But we can understand from Bhagavad Gita that the world is not false, it is temporary. There is a difference between temporary and false. The world is temporary, but there is another world which is eternal. This world is miserable, but the other world is eternal and blissful. And the Prabhupada says, Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him, the Lord said, take to my devotional service and come back to Godhead back home. No one should remain in this temporary world full as it is with miseries. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. The Prabhupada is reconciling it very nicely. that whoever, wherever, whatever may be your condition, just take to devotional service. And Krishna is assuring that anyone who takes to my devotional service, I shall always protect. And also, such a person very quickly attains the supreme destination. 34, the last verse of this chapter.
Should I, ma'am? Mataji?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajivamam namaskura mam evas yasya yuktayam atmanam mat parayanam. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being compulsory absorbed in me, surely you will become to me.
Yeah. So we heard that Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literature. When we read the introduction, we heard that Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literature. And the middle chapters, these 6 chapters from 7 to 12 are considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Vedic literature, and this section, 7 to 12, is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And within that essence of Bhagavad Gita, 9th and 10th chapter are right in the middle. And this shloka 934 is actually in the center of Bhagavad Gita. It is the essence of the essence of the essence. It is that important in shloka that Krishna will repeat it almost verbatim in 1865, which is when he gives the entire crux of what he's taught in Bhagavad Gita. He will repeat it almost as it is in 1865. And in this verse, Krishna is actually giving 4 instructions. What are these 4 instructions? Engage your mind in always thinking of me. That is the first instruction. Second is become my devotee. Third is offer obeisances to me. And fourth is worship me. These are the 4 instructions that Krishna is giving. And then he's saying that if you perform your devotional service like that in absorption, then you will surely come back to me. So these are the 4 most important instructions that Krishna is giving. And in 1865, which is the repetition almost of this verse, and normally we hear that 1866, which is the Sarv Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, that is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Actually, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is 1865 and 1866 combined. In 1866, he says, surrender unto me. Just surrender unto me. And 1865, he says, what are the components of surrender? So in 934, we get to know what are the components of surrender, how to surrender to Krishna, what does he want from us. So he's saying, always engage your mind in thinking of me. So he is not saying that, he's saying that it is not just sufficient to work for me, but I want your mind as well. When you work for me, do it consciously. Don't just work for me. Do it by engaging your mind in me. Engage your mind in me. So this shloka is actually the most confidential instruction, because Krishna is saying, making it very clear, how can you come back to me? If you engage your mind, you become my devotee, you offer obeisances to me, and you worship me. And in the purport, Prabhupada, this is the 2nd paragraph. So very, very nice, very wonderful purport. Prabhupada says in the 2nd paragraph, there are some who are demoniac, who think of Krishna, but enviously, just like King Kansa, Krishna's uncle. He was also thinking of Krishna always, but he thought of Krishna as his enemy. He was always in anxiety, wondering when Krishna would come to kill him. That kind of thinking will not help us. And we'll read more about this when we study NOD, that when pure devotional service is defined, it is said, Anyabhilashita shunyam gyan karmadi navritam anukulen Krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. So anukulen means that one must serve Krishna favorably. So that is a characteristic of bhakti. And here Prabhupada is mentioning about Kansa, but he was not thinking of Krishna favorably. He did not want to serve him. So this is not really considered bhakti. So Prabhupada says one should be thinking of Krishna in devotional love. That is bhakti. One should cultivate the knowledge of Krishna consciously. What is that favorable cultivation? It is to learn from a bona fide teacher. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we have several times explained that his body is not material, but is eternal blissful knowledge. This kind of talk about Krishna will help one become a devotee. Understanding Krishna otherwise from the wrong source will prove fruitless. So Prabhupada is making it very clear that when Krishna is giving this instruction, always think of me. The way to apply that instruction is always think of him favorably. How can I serve Krishna? Whatever I am doing, how can I offer it to Krishna? How can I always remember Krishna? You know, if you see what the instruction he gave in 8th chapter and the instruction that Rupa Goswami gives in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, that always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And the 8th chapter, he says that one who quits his body, remembering me, will surely attain me. And here he's saying, always think of me. So these are all same instructions, that always remember Krishna, always think of him. The mind has to be engaged in Krishna. Our thinking has to be engaged in Krishna. And then Prabhupada in the next paragraph says, one should therefore engage his mind in the eternal form, the primal form of Krishna, with conviction in his heart that Krishna is the supreme. He should engage himself in worship. There are hundreds and thousands of temples in India for the worship of Krishna, and devotional service is practiced there. So what should one do? One should lower his head before the deity, engage his mind, his body, his activities, everything. And that will make one fully absorbed in Krishna without deviation. So when we go in front of the deity, so we know that we are supposed to pay obeisances, but that obeisance is not at the bodily level. That has to be with our mind and consciousness. We have to remember, what are we doing? Who are we paying our obeisances to? Who is this person? So I recently heard in a class where Maharaj was saying that when you go in front of Krishna and you pay obeisances, you chant certain, certain mantras and you pay obeisances, you have to tell Krishna, Krishna, I'm calling out to you, so that he knows that, okay, he's paying obeisances to me. So we have to be conscious. A lot of times we just go and fall flat, say those mantras, get up, and that's it. But we have to be conscious to pay our obeisances. We have to be conscious while offering bhoga to the deity, that this is the deity and I'm offering with my love and devotion. So the practice of devotional service has to be done consciously. And that's what Krishna is asking here. By engaging your mind in me, by engaging your mind in giving your mind in your practice, being conscious of your practice, what exactly are you doing and for what? What is the purpose? And in the last paragraph of this verse, Prabhupada says, there is a beautiful poem about Krishna in which it is clearly stated that any person who's engaged in the worship of demigods is most unintelligent and cannot achieve at any time the supreme award of Krishna. The devotee in the beginning may sometimes fall from the standard, but still he should be considered superior to all other philosophers and yogis. One who always engages in Krishna consciousness should be understood to be a perfectly saintly person. His accidental, non-devotional activities will diminish, and he will soon be situated without any doubt in complete perfection. The pure devotee has no actual chance to fall down because the Supreme Godhead personally takes care of his pure devotees. Therefore, the intelligent person should take directly to the process of Krishna consciousness and happily live in this material world. He will eventually receive the supreme award of Krishna. So Prabhupada has very nicely summarized in one paragraph this entire chapter in a way, that how one should not take shelter of the demigods and one should remain engaged in Krishna consciousness, because even if one falls down accidentally, Krishna will protect and soon that person will be able to get over that conditioning. So this is the essence of this particular chapter. And thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the most confidential knowledge. Okay, before we start chapter 10, if you have any question, any clarification, we can do that now. And then after that, we'll start the 10th chapter. Good. Looks like you all have understood everything. That's very nice. So we can start with 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The 10th chapter is titled The Opulence of the Absolute. So let me just give you a breakup of how this chapter is, the flow of this chapter. And the flow is that the first 7 verses talk about that Krishna is knowing that Krishna is unknowable and the source of all. Krishna will talk about his different potencies and he'll say that nobody can really understand. I'm inconceivable. I'm very difficult to know. Nobody can really understand. So in first 7 verses, he's going to talk about that. 8 to 11, he is going to give Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, the 4 verses, which pretty much give the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So that's why these 4 verses are known as Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita, 10.8 to 10.11. And these 4 verses are about pure devotional service. And then 12 to 18, Arjun, after hearing the Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita, will acknowledge the supreme possession of Krishna. He will acknowledge that, yes, I understand that you are Param Brahma, Param Dhama. You are the supreme. And then Arjun will also request Krishna to speak more about his specific opulences. We have heard in chapter 7 about some of his opulences. We have heard about his energies, different energies in chapter 9. But in chapter 10, he's specifically going to talk about certain opulences. Basically, the whole idea of this is that when we see anything opulent, anything powerful or beautiful in this world, we should know how to relate it to Krishna. We should see how that is nothing else but Krishna's own potency. So that is why he's going to speak about his different opulences in this chapter. And then 19 to 42, Krishna is going to speak about his opulences in detail. Like, and in not really in detail, but he's going to give like a wide range of his opulences. And he's going to talk about, how he is the essence of everything. Whatever good is anything, how that represents Krishna. Actually, he talks from 19 to 39 about that. From 40 to 42, he mentions that I am the source of everything. And these opulences that I've talked about are only, they are just like a very tiny percentage of my actual opulences. I've just, kind of scratched on the surface. I have not really described everything. So that's what's going to happen in 42, 42. 40th verse to 42nd verse. Okay, so the opulence of the absolute. So we can start by reading.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya Ev Mahabaho Shinu Me Paramam Vachaha Yate Aham Priyamanaya Vakshyami Hitakamaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, listen again, O mighty armed Arjun, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I've already explained.
Yeah. So Acharya start by explaining Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So Bhaga means opulence and Van means the possessor. So we all know that the definition of Bhagavan given by Parashar Muni is that he has 6 opulences and to the maximum degree, right? He is full of those 6 opulences. And here he's saying again, listen again. He's telling Arjun, listen again. So the Acharyas also comment on this, that the knowledge, the way to get knowledge is through the ears. All other senses, you can close your nose, and you may or may not smell certain things. You can close your mouth, you can close your eyes, but even when you're sleeping, the ears cannot be closed. And still you can keep hearing. So hearing is the best way to get the knowledge. So he's saying, listen again. And in Bhagavatam, hearing is glorified in many, many verses, that how by hearing one can actually get the true knowledge. And hearing from what? Hearing from a bona fide source, from a bona fide devotee. One can actually attain the true knowledge. And here he's saying that I'm going to give knowledge which is better than what I've already explained, because he's going to give knowledge about his opulences and more specific descriptions, whereby by hearing about these opulences of Krishna, a devotee feels even more attraction towards Krishna. It's something like that if you have a if you have a friend in school and, you both of you are friends and you don't know much about his background. And then one day you come to know that he's the son of a billionaire and he has got so much of everything and he's very, very charitable. He's very nice. What do you feel if you come to know that my best friend is actually like this? Then you feel kind of proud to be associated with him. You feel happy to be associated with him. That, my friend is so great. It's so nice that I have a friend like that. So Krishna is actually aiming for something like that. When he's going to talk about his opulences, he wants us to feel that, see, I have such a wonderful friend in Krishna. He's so powerful. My friend is so great. So Krishna is basically trying to evoke certain devotion in us, and so that we can think of him favorably. And Prabhupada says, previously, beginning with the 7th chapter, the Lord has already explained his different energies and how they're acting. Now in this chapter, he explains his specific opulences to Arjuna. In the previous chapter, he has clearly explained his different energies to establish devotion and firm conviction. Again, in this chapter, he tells Arjuna about his manifestation and various opulences. The more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotion service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees, and that will enhance one's devotion service. So the more we hear and repeatedly we hear, the more fixed we'll become, the more faith we will acquire, and more attraction we will acquire, right? And we can see, we can apply this in our lives. So, Jayadvaita Prabhu, is there any place that you really want to go and you haven't been? Which is that place?
Well, on this planet or outside?
And on this planet for now.
New Zealand.
New Zealand, okay.
Yeah.
And how did you develop that desire to go to New Zealand?
Because I live right next to it, but I've never been there.
Okay, you are right next to it, but you've never been there. But there could be many things right next to you, right? But why New Zealand?
Because it's lots of nature, I love snow, I love the...
How did you come to know that New Zealand had snow?
Well, I heard it from people from New Zealand because there's a lot of Kiwis living in Australia. And also I've read it in books, I've seen it on YouTube, I've seen it on internet. Yeah.
Yeah, there are many places in this world who are very natural and who have a lot of snow. So why is the desire to go to New Zealand? Because you've heard about it, you've read about it. And some places may be even more beautiful than New Zealand, but you've never heard about that.
Yeah. Surprisingly, you're right, actually. I was in Kazakhstan just last week and I didn't know about that place. It's right next to India. And it is, I would say, even in some ways much better than New Zealand. But I still want to go to New Zealand.
Yeah. So we can see that even in this world, our desires are actually, the desires come up when we hear about something. When we hear repeatedly, the more desirous we become. That, okay, I want to go there. If we hear repeatedly about a certain dish that, this particular dish is really, really tasty, then we get this desire to really taste that dish and experience that and relish it, right? So similarly, here Prabhupada is telling us that the more we hear about Krishna, the more that attraction will grow. Because the more we hear about Krishna, more we can meditate, more we can be absorbed in thinking about him. So it's so important to hear about him on a regular basis in the association of devotees. So this desire that in our heart, we have this desire right now to enjoy in this material world. But if we hear repeatedly about Krishna, then that desire is going to get transformed into a desire to associate with Krishna, to serve Krishna, to be with him, to be in his pastimes. So that is why hearing is so critical. One must hear, and reading and hearing, Prabhupada says, are like they are considered on the same platform. Either you read or you hear. So these two things are very, very important for a devotee, to always think about Krishna and always hear about Krishna. Thinking is only possible when there is Shravanam and Kirtanam. Smaranam happens when there is Shravanam and Kirtanam. Smaranam does not happen on its own. Remembrance comes by chanting and hearing. Shravan is the first thing. Hear, chant, and remember. Okay, next.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read?
Yeah, please.
Na me viduva surganaha prabhavam na maharshayah amadirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Translation: neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages.
Yeah, so two things. First of all, he's saying that the demigods who have, much better lifespans compared to humans, or great sages, they also don't know about me. I'm inconceivable and I'm unknowable. And what does he say? Because for that respect, because I am their origin. So it's not possible for them also to know, because they have originated from me. So one who's the origin, from whom things origin, that person knows. But the one who comes later would not know everything about the person that he originates from. So that's what Krishna is trying to say here, that I only can be known when actually I give my mercy to someone. Just because you have a fantastic lifespan or you may be great in whatever respect, that is not the criteria for you to know me. I am not known like that. And Prabhupada in the purport says, this is in the first paragraph, he says, no one can understand why this supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, but they have failed to do so. And then Prabhupada says in the last paragraph, because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation, out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material world, material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand by the grace of Supreme Personality. Note that, by the grace of Supreme Personality, that he is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord, and out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. It is only when Krishna decides to reveal himself out of his mercy can one really know him. Okay, third.
Hare Krishna. Yo mamajam anadim cha veti loka maheshwaram asammudha samadhyeshu sarva papai pramukshate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Lord of all the worlds, he only, undeluded among men, is freed from all sins.
Yeah. So a similar verse when he says Janma Karma Chame Devyam Yo Me Veti Tatvata. Yeah. So he's basically saying that one who knows me as unborn, as beginningless, and as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds. So in these three ways, one who knows me, that person is actually freed from all sins. So Prabhupada in the purport, the first paragraph, he says As stated in the 7th chapter, 7.3, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kashchid Yatati Siddhaye. Those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization are not ordinary men. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge of spiritual realization. But out of those actually trying to understand their spiritual situation, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, is the most successful spiritually realized person. And then in the next paragraph, he says, here the Lord is described by the word Aja, meaning unborn, because he is distinct from the living entities who are described in the 2nd chapter as Aja. How's the Lord different? We heard this in the 4th chapter. Also, because he does not change his body, he always appears in his spiritual form. He always appears at Satchidanand. He does not take on a gross body like us. And in the next paragraph, Prabhupada says, in this verse, the words Veti Loka Maheshwaram indicate that one should know that Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the planetary systems of the universe. He was existing before the creation, and he is different from his creation. And he's the supreme person of all planets. One should know that he is beginningless. He is the origin of all, the cause of all causes. And then Prabhupada says in seventh paragraph, which starts with anything done. He says the conception that there are things auspicious and inauspicious in the material world is more or less a mental concoction, because there's nothing auspicious in the material world. That's a strong statement, but very true. There's nothing auspicious. Everything is inauspicious because the very material nature is inauspicious. We simply imagine it to be auspicious. Real auspiciousness depends on activities in Krishna consciousness in full devotion and service. That is the real auspiciousness. We may think that, okay, this is auspicious, this is inauspicious, but Prabhupada is saying everything in this material world is actually inauspicious. And then he says, therefore, if we at all want our activities to be auspicious, then we should work under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Such directions are given in authoritative scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, or from a bona fide spiritual master. Because the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord, his direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master, saintly persons, and scriptures direct in the same way. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, they all direct in the same way. The basis of Guru and Sadhu is what? Shastra. So Guru speaks according to Shastra and Sadhu speaks according to Shastra. So whatever they all three say is in alignment. Three of them are aligned, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Then Prabhupada says the transcendental attitude of the devotee in the performance of activities is actually that of renunciation, and that is called sannyas. Sannyas is not a dress, it is an attitude. Then he says that one who acts as a matter of duty because he has been ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord and who does not seek shelter in the fruits of his activities is a true renouncer. Anyone acting under the direction of the Supreme Lord is actually a sannyasi and a yogi, and not the man who has simply taken the dress of a sannyasi or a pseudo yogi. So basically, Krishna is saying that one has to know him, that he manifests through his internal potency, and he always retains his eternal form. And one who agrees to hear about Krishna will know this if he agrees to hear from a bona fide source. Okay, next, 4 and 5.
Mataji, I have a doubt. Can I ask?
Yes, please go ahead.
Mataji, here in this in the third paragraph, the second last line is he is the creator of Brahma and Shiva. So Brahma, we are already aware that how Krishna is the creator of him, but how Shiva?
Shiva comes from Brahma, and all other demigods also come from Brahma. So in that sense, he is the creator of Brahma, Shiva, all the demigods.
Okay, because when we go for the book distribution, so it is very difficult to convince them that Shiva is also came from Krishna. So how more elaborately we can explain?
That's given in Bhagavatam very clearly, that when Brahma starts creation, Shiva is born out of Brahma. And
Thank
so
you.
are the demigods. Yeah. Mandaleshwar Prabhu?
Mataji, it is stated in first paragraph that millions of millions ordinary man has that, and in that one only can understand this knowledge. Then we are also we ordinary souls, can we understand little bit of Krishna?
You are among those who are trying to understand out of millions.
Okay.
And one of, and to reach perfection is even rarer. To trying to come to the level of trying to understand Krishna is in itself a rarity. And then from that position to actually understand Krishna is even rarer.
But if it is not easy to understand Krishna anywhere, Mataji.
It is not easy, but if you practice devotional service, he says, out of my mercy I reveal. When Krishna becomes pleased to see our efforts, to see our sincerity, then out of his mercy he will reveal. Out of our own effort, we can never understand Krishna. It is by mercy that he is revealed. And the best way to practice mercy is to be sincere and to engage in Krishna consciousness with determination. When he sees that, this person is trying to know me, he's trying to serve me, then he becomes merciful. And due to his mercy, he reveals himself. And that's how we come to know him.
And up till we know Krishna, we can't go to Golokdham, Mataji, like that.
How is that possible? How can you go to someone's house? How will he allow you entry if there's no...
It's very impossible for like me, such a fallen soul, to go there, Mataji.
Yeah, so we are all fallen. We all have to work hard. We all have to become sincere and depend on the mercy. And, he will become merciful, and his devotees are even more merciful than him. So Prabhupada gives this guarantee that if you try to chant your 16 rounds with attention and follow the 4 regulative principles, I will take you back personally. So we just depend on that. And we heard that, Krishna breaks his promise, but never, he keeps the promise of his devotee. So Prabhupada has said this, Krishna will have to comply because this promise has been made by his devotee. So we just take shelter of this statement of Prabhupada and we try to do the best we can.
With Prabhupada mercy only we can.
Oh,
try. We can have, otherwise there is no hope.
Krishna cannot be reached without the devotee's mercy. It's not possible. The gap is too much. So it's the devotee, by his mercy, he pulls us, and then it's a chain. This Acharya Parampara is a chain. One pulls, then the second one pulls from there, then the third one pulls from there, and then we reach. So that's why one has to be very, very, very faithful to the Parampara, and one has to be very sincere.
Then Mataji, please pray for me. Should I become a pure devotee?
You pray for me first, that I can pray for you, and then I will do it.
You are already blessed soul, Mataji. You are in a very nice association of pure devotees and Maharaj in Delhi. But we are in so isolated place.
We are all in association of a very pure devotee. We are all associating with Prabhupada's books. Reading his book, he says that these are live purports. These are live purports. They are not like I have written it once and over. No, these purports reveal themselves according to the level of our realization. We are associating with Prabhupada directly when we read his purports. Let's be conscious of that. We are all under very, very wonderful association. We just have to make the most of this opportunity.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Dayanavita. Dayanavita. Okay. Yes.
This is just a small request, like today in the end of the class, can you reveal the picture which is hanging outside, like behind your seat? We every day used to saw the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, but we want to see his face also.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Yes. I really like this picture very much. So yeah, I'll show it to you. Okay, so then yeah, we have to read 4 and 5 now. Somebody can read it.
बुद्धिर्जन्मो सम्मोह क्षमा सत्यं दमः क्षमा सुखं दुःखं भवो भावो भयं चाभ्येमेव च Ahimsa samata tushti stho danam yasho sa yashyaha bhavanti bhava bhutanam mata eva priti gavidha. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone.
Yeah. So basically what he's trying to say, that everything actually originates from me. Everything comes from me. So here he mentions these 21 qualities, and he says that they are all coming from me. So Prabhupada in his very wonderful purport actually talks about all these qualities in detail and explains what are these qualities all about. So would be nice if you can read those. So I have marked those specific places and I'll try to read, and we shall benefit from it. So in the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective. And knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. So knowledge means to be able to distinguish between spirit and matter. And intelligence is the power to analyze, to discriminate that what is good, what is bad, what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. So this is a function of intelligence, and knowledge means to know the difference between matter and spirit. And then in the third paragraph, Prabhupada says, asamoha, freedom from doubt and delusion, can be achieved when one is not hesitant and when he understands the transcendental philosophy. Surely, slowly but surely, he becomes free from bewilderment. Nothing should be accepted blindly. Prabhupada was never for blind following. He always said that no blind following. I don't need blind followers. I need independent, intelligent thinkers who can think intelligently and independently. I don't need blind followers. So Prabhupada is saying here, nothing should be accepted blindly. Everything should be accepted with care and with caution. That whatever you see, first you process it. And if you have doubts, then clear those doubts. Ask submissively and clear those doubts. Don't just, even if the doubts crop up and you just don't go on accepting, don't do that. If doubts crop up, you clarify those doubts. Jai Advaita Prabhu?
Sorry, I was just reading. Yeah, I'll ask the question when you get to that.
Okay.
Already. It's
Okay.
about Shama.
Shama?
Yeah.
Okay. So then Prabhupada is explaining about Shama. Tolerance and forgiveness should be practiced. One should be tolerant and excuse minor offenses of others. Why does he say that excuse minor offenses? Because every day somebody or the other would be committing some minor offense. Even we are committing minor offenses against, other people. But once we get used to actually excusing these minor offenses, then we build up that tolerance when somebody performs a major offense towards us. Then we don't react when there is a major offense. And how does that come up? When we get used to actually excusing the minor offenses. We get in that practice, we develop that spiritual muscle. If you are trying to develop certain muscles, then how does it work? You have to work on that muscle. That's how that muscle gets developed. Similarly, the spiritual muscle gets developed when we use it. And when we use it again and again, then we come to the platform of Trinadapi Sunichain Taroravi Sahishana, to be able to tolerate whatever may be the condition, whatever may be the situation. Yes, Prabhu, what's your question in this?
So what's the bound? What's the bound of this tolerance? It has
No
to
bound.
be.
No bound. The more you can, the better it is. Because if you see from Krishna's perspective, if you see from Krishna's perspective, how much does he tolerate us? He loves us. We have revolted against him. We are trying to enjoy it independently of him. Yet he's making all the arrangements so we can understand and come back to him. And every day we reject him, yet he has not given up on us. When we chant around badly, it's a signal to Krishna we don't really want a relationship with him. And yet he's ready to forgive us and give us another chance. So Krishna has boundless tolerance. And similarly, if we see his exalted devotees, we look at Yudhishthira Maharaj. What all they did not suffer from the hands of Kauravas. But after the battle was over, Dhritarashtra was left. He took care of Dhritarashtra as his own son. Just think about it, like the level of tolerance. And that's why Krishna says that if somebody is envious of Pandavas, I consider that person as being envious of me. I see that person as my enemy. Why? Because this level of tolerance really pleases Krishna.
But I see, Mataji, I've seen a lot of suffering around me and in my own life, but around me, especially because of this very concept of boundless tolerance, and people, they literally drop out of bhakti because of this very, just trying to practice this quality, and they just break. And that's why I asked the question, what's the bound? Because there has to be, if it breaks your bhakti, what's the point?
Actually, it cannot be practiced artificially. It goes with the level of our spiritual development. What we can take without getting agitated and what we can take sanely is our level at the present moment. And as we progress in bhakti, as the false ego starts dissolving, as we start to understand that our only existence is Chaitanya Radas Samui Chaitanya Radas, no other existence. I am only a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and I'm a servant of his servant of his servant of his servant of his servant. So it does not come artificially. It is a practice. And if we try to act above our level, we are going to actually get very disappointed and frustrated. So it's very important to know at what level can I act at the level of my present spiritual development. We know that the goal is unlimited tolerance, but I am not there right now because I am not spiritually at that platform. And to be able to accept and live in reality is what will keep us going. We cannot make progress from an artificial platform. We can only make progress from a real platform to acknowledge where we are today. And
So
platform.
What's the solution for such a person who is not there yet, but they are trying? And why I ask is, the context I'm asking it in is that suppose there is this one person who's constantly bombarding you, hammering you down, and you're just forgiving them, and there'll come a point of breakdown, whether you break them down with your back offense to them one time, or you're broken because you have just exhausted all your forgiveness muscle. So what do you do in that situation?
Various things you can do. First thing is, if somebody is really on your case and he's bombarding you or offending you now and then, again and again. So one can, and that I don't have boundless tolerance. I'm not able to really take it. It's driving me mad, being in this situation. Then you distance yourself from that situation. You just somehow, if you are serving together with such a person, you change your service and you distance yourself. That is one way. And sometimes you have to, there's a story where a Narad Muni actually has a disciple in the form of a serpent. A snake takes shelter of Narad Muni. And Narad Muni tells him that, don't bite anybody. Don't do this. This is really bad. You'll get a lot of karmic reaction for this. Don't bite anybody. So that snake is a very wonderful disciple. He agrees, okay, I will not bite anybody. Then after a month or so, when Narad Muni comes back, he sees that snake is almost about to die. He's in a really pathetic condition. And he has wounds all over his body. So Narad Muni asked him, what happened? Why are you like this? Then he said, well, you told me not to bite and people are hitting me with stones. What to do? So I'm not retaliating. I'm not biting. So Narad Muni said, don't bite, but I didn't tell you not to scare them. At least act as if you're going to bite so that they leave you alone. So that's the lesson, that sometimes there are people around us, and sometimes we may have to act in a way that they think that, okay, if I don't stop now, it can really get ugly. So sometimes we have to do that. So there are different ways depending on the situation. Either you like distance yourself, or sometimes you have to just react, although you're not going to do anything really bad to them, but somehow like instill some fear of God in them, which kind of helps the situation. Yeah.
So my understanding from what you said, so I'm just repeating it, is that a correct understanding, that if that's happening, forgiving them with the disclaimer that you don't allow that same thing to reoccur, at least try.
I mean, whatever you can try, like distancing yourself is a very wonderful situation, especially in the society of devotees, because you don't want to offend them either. And by distancing yourself, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind kind of a situation, that you're not interacting with them, it does not bother you, that person also, will decide not to bother you anymore. So that almost always works. But if, you are caught in a situation where you're not able to distance yourself, and that person is going on offending and going on making life miserable for you, then sometimes it is a good idea to act in a way where they think that, okay, they need to stop now. So,
yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. And
Hare
then,
Krishna, Mother.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question, Mother.
Ooh, okay, Vivek. Yes. Okay.
It's getting a bit confusing because Krishna is telling Arjun that you should take part in this war. But on the other hand, he's quoting in this shloka that your forgiveness should be boundless. Why is he not saying Arjuna to forgive Kauravas then?
He's not saying this to Arjuna because that's the desire of Krishna. The reason he comes is yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. That, the whole battle of Kurukshetra is actually orchestrated by Krishna. If you see that, how he was putting each and every piece together, and he was like setting a chessboard, who will go where, who's this, what is going to happen to this person. This was all orchestrated by Krishna. So his desire is that I want you to fight this battle. He's going to tell in 11th chapter that I have already killed everyone. You just become an instrument because I want to give you the credit. So it's not that these two instructions are not contradictory. He appreciates the tolerance of Pandavas very much. And he's not saying don't be intolerant. He's saying you listen to me. I want you to do this. There's a difference. Okay?
Okay.
Satyam, then he is explaining Satyam, truthfulness, means that facts should be presented as they are for the benefit of others. Facts should not be misrepresented. According to social conventions, it is said that one can speak truth only when it is palatable to others, but this is not truthfulness. The truth should be spoken in a straightforward way so that others will understand actually what the facts are. If a man is a thief, and if people are warned that he's a thief, that is truth. Although sometimes the truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are for the benefit of others, and that is the definition of truth. To present facts in a way which is palatable, but if one has to present it in a way which may not be so palatable, still choosing to present facts, that is truthfulness, but it has to be for the benefit of others. That kind of truth which does not benefit anybody is not really truthfulness. So one has to be very careful that I'm going to speak this. Is this beneficial thing? And then speak it in a straightforward manner and try not to agitate others by speaking it.
Can I add? Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
If we can talk sometimes lies also, if it is beneficial for that, we can talk lies.
It's not really recommended, but say if you have to lie to save the life of a devotee, if somebody is trying to kill a devotee and that devotee is hiding in your place, and then they come and ask you, is this person here? And you say no. So that's not really considered a lie. Okay. But when we lie for our own benefit, that is not recommended. Rishabh Prabhu?
Mataji, there is a verse which comes later in Bhagavad Gita regarding austerity of speech. So there Krishna says that we should not agitate others, but unpalatable truth will agitate. So how do
you reconcile these two? So the way to reconcile this is that we speak in a sweet manner as much as possible. But the truth, even if you speak in a sweet manner, sometimes the truth is such that people are not able to handle it. So there's nothing you can really do about it, but not to speak in a way which is agitating to others. Always speak sweetly, but speak truth. That is the austerity of the tongue. Not to agitate others deliberately, but if they are getting agitated by hearing the truth, that's not really your fault. What can you do?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. And then Prabhupada is now going to talk about control of the senses. Control of the senses means that senses should not be used for unnecessary personal enjoyment. There is no prohibition against meeting the proper needs of the senses. Prabhupada here is making it very clear. It does not mean that, oh no, now I'm not going to engage my senses at all. He's saying proper needs. Every sense needs certain gratification. Every sense needs certain enjoyment. But unnecessary sense enjoyment is detrimental for spiritual advancement. Underline the word unnecessary. And then Prabhupada says, therefore, the senses should be restrained from unnecessary use. Similarly, one should restrain the mind from unnecessary thoughts, and that is called shama. One should not spend one's time pondering over earning money. That is the misuse of thinking power. The mind should be used to understand the prime necessity of human beings, and that should be presented authoritatively. And then Prabhupada talks about sukham. What is sukham? So he says about happiness. Pleasure or happiness should always be in that which is favorable for the cultivation of the spiritual knowledge of Krishna consciousness. That is sukham. To do something or see something which is favorable for one's Krishna consciousness. And similarly, that which is painful or which causes distress is that which is unfavorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So happiness for a devotee is what? To choose what is favorable, and distress is to not choose what is favorable or to choose what is unfavorable. That is what is distress for a devotee. Then he talks about birth. Bhava, birth should be understood to refer to the body. As far as the soul is concerned, there is neither birth nor death. That we have discussed at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Birth and death apply to one's embodiment in the material world. And the next he discusses fear. Fear is due to worrying about the future, right? We are never fearful about past. Are we fearful about past? No, that's done with. We are always fearful about future. A person in Krishna consciousness has no fear because by his activities, he is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, his future is very bright. And then Prabhupada says further down, if we want to get free from anxiety, then the best course is to understand Krishna and be situated in Krishna consciousness. In this way, we will be free from all fear. So the cause of fear is what? Our absorption in the material energy, our absorption in this material body. That is the cause of fear. And then Prabhupada talks about abhayam, which is fearlessness. And he says that the fear is a condition, this fear is a condition of persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. Abhayam, fearlessness, is possible only for one in Krishna consciousness. And then he talks about ahimsa, non-violence. Non-violence means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. And then in many places, he goes on to say that the greatest violence is to not give Krishna consciousness to others. That is the greatest violence. And here also he says, ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. the human body is meant for spiritual realization. So any movement or any commissions which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. So basically preaching, telling people about Krishna, bringing them closer to Krishna, that is ahimsa. And then samatha or equanimity refers to freedom from attachment and aversion. To be very much attached or to be very much detached is not best. That which is favorable for prosecuting Krishna consciousness should be accepted. That which is unfavorable should be rejected. And that is equanimity. That is samatha. Then he talks about tushti or satisfaction. He says, tushti satisfaction means that one should not be eager to gather more and more material goods for unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of the Supreme Lord, and that is called satisfaction. Jai Advaita Prabhu.
Just wanted to also hear about the non-violence, ahimsa. Are we a non-violent movement? Well, religion, not movement. Like, of course, I'm talking the whole Sanatana Dharma, not just ISKCON. So how are we different in that aspect from the our brothers from the Buddhism? Because they talk a lot about it.
Wonderful. Their ahimsa is on the bodily level. Our ahimsa is on the spiritual level. You know, they do not believe in killing the bodies of others. We don't believe in killing the souls. So we are on a different platform from Buddhists when ahimsa is concerned.
Because amongst the younger generation, especially in their teens and growing up in their early 20s, people are very attracted nowadays to Buddhism. A lot of the movie stars are also, although born in Hindu families, are accepting that very and then portraying it, and it's become a big fashion. So, and in the name of non-violence, they blaspheme the Sanatana Dharma for gods, Hindu gods. They call it, of course, they're referring to not Krishna, they're referring to the demigod holding swords and this and that, the other, and they just are just spreading this miseducation that our religion is supporting the violence.
Yeah, that's a very superficial way of seeing things. If Buddhists are saying that, then at certain level we are also in the lack if we don't explain that our non-violence is even deeper. Theirs is like on the surface, and ours is on the eternal. Ours is the eternal aspect of non-violence. And it's very, very surprising, because I know like the Buddhism was founded on this tenet that they should not commit violence against other living entities. So this is my personal experience. I was once traveling from China to India, and a whole lot of, the plane was full of Buddhists. There were a lot of Buddhists on that plane, and they all ordered non-vegetarian food. They all were eating non-vegetarian food. So, the conception of violence has become very twisted. So they probably now equate it to what the way Christianity does, non-violence towards humans, or thou shalt not kill is towards humans, but they are still eating non-vegetarian food. So, but for a Sanatani or for somebody who is a follower of Krishna, violence and non-violence have a very different connotation. Violence means to basically put somebody else in misery, and that is not just limited to humans. That is even an ant or even a cockroach, and we consider that as jiva aprad. We don't, just look at humans. We look at each and every jiva, and we try not to commit any violence towards them, and also to deliver whoever. The whole purpose of Harinam Sankirtan is this non-violence. When we go out on the roads, it is to deliver each and every living entity who comes in touch, so that they all get to hear the holy name. They all get to benefit from that. So ours is a very different level of ahimsa, much deeper at the soul level. So if we are not able to tell them, and the people think that, Buddhism is probably the most non-violent religion, then it is our lack. We need to get more proactive in the way we preach.
But at the same time, isn't what Prabhupada also says that this world can never be fully non-violent at any second, because one living entity is the fruit of another. In fact, plants that we eat also have, there is a living entity there. So we do not waste too much time on talking.
Yeah, so that's why we don't describe non-violence in terms of this body. When we don't consider it at the bodily platform, we consider it at the soul platform. Right? So that is why even with vegetables, we first offer it to the Lord. And when any vegetable is offered to the Lord, they benefit eternally. The benefit goes to them. If Krishna accepts even a flower from a tree, that tree benefits eternally. So our it's not skin deep. Our violence concept is to the soul level.
Yeah, I like it. I think, yeah, these are they're the punchlines. It can really change someone's perspective if we know this. That's why I'm asking, because giving them a long purport doesn't really help, and sometimes you only get like 2 seconds to say something. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. So now Prabhupada is talking about tushti, or satisfaction, that we should not be eager to gather more and more material goods for unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of the Supreme Lord, and that is called satisfaction. And tapas, the next one is tapas, means austerity or penance. And then he says that there are many rules in Vedas, like getting up early, taking a bath. And sometimes, especially in winters, it's very difficult to get up early and take a bath. But whatever voluntary trouble one may suffer in this way is called penance. Similarly, there are prescriptions for fasting on certain days of the month. One may not be inclined to practice such fasting, but because of his determination to make advancement in the science of Krishna consciousness, he should accept such bodily troubles when they are recommended. However, this is really wonderful. Prabhupada says, however, one should not fast unnecessarily or against Vedic injunctions. One should not fast for some political purpose that is described in Bhagavad Gita as fasting in ignorance, or anything done in ignorance and passion does not lead to spiritual advancement. And then Prabhupada talks about charity a bit. All of us have heard this. As far as charity is concerned, one should give 50% of his earnings to some good cause. Now, this becomes like a bone of contention, because people say that if I give 50%, how am I going to survive? So one has to, every time we read the scriptures, we have to understand that the ideal situation is being presented to us in the scriptures. And the way to start is that by giving up maybe like say 5%, and then increasing it to 10, and then increasing it to 20. And that's how slowly we come to this platform. And we may not be able to even come to this platform totally in this lifetime. That's okay. It is secondary. The primary thing is to remember Krishna and to engage in devotional service. So, and then Prabhupada says that charity should be done for a good cause. And the best cause is to help in Krishna consciousness, to help in the spread of Krishna consciousness. Then he says that Brahmanas are normally given charity. Why? Because Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. A Brahmana is the one who knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows the Brahma, and that's why he's called as a Brahmana. So thus charity is offered to the Brahmanas because they are always engaged in higher spiritual service and have no time to earn their livelihood. In the Vedic literature, charity is also awarded to one in the renounced order of life, the sannyasi. And in the Vedic society, the sannyasis used to go from one house to another to beg alms. And the whole idea behind that was not to beg, really get something in return, but to go to a householder's place and enlighten that person in spiritual knowledge. And what was from the outside, it was an excuse that I have come here to beg alms. But the idea behind that was to enlighten that householder with spiritual knowledge. And that's why sannyasis used to go and beg alms. And then Prabhupada is saying, this knowledge and method is distributed by the sannyasis. Hence, charity is to be given to the renouncer of life, to the brahmanas, and similar good causes, and not to any whimsical cause. And then he talks about fame, yashas, should be according to Lord Chaitanya, who said that a man is famous when he's known as a great devotee. That is real fame. Fame means to actually be acknowledged by Krishna. All other kind of fame is of worth 2 pennies. You know, if somebody else acknowledges for you for your wealth or for some skill, what good is that? If Krishna acknowledges a devotee and thinks of that devotee as a great devotee or a friend, that is real fame. And Prabhupada says, if one has become a great man in Krishna consciousness and it is known, then he's truly famous. Then he's truly famous. And one who does not have such fame is infamous. He's saying, if you don't have, if you're not acknowledged by Krishna, any kind of fame is infamy. Because the whole idea is that Krishna should be pleased with us. And then in the last paragraph, he says, second last paragraph, he says, now for one who wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, Krishna creates all these qualities, but the person develops them himself from within. We have to work towards developing these qualities. And then he says that one who engages in devotional service of the Supreme Lord develops all the good qualities, but still one has to put in the work. Of whatever we find good or bad, the origin is Krishna. Nothing can manifest itself in this material world which is not Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. Okay, next. 6th. Harshita?
Hare Krishna, Machi, like all the qualities originate from Krishna. So how can we understand fear is originating from Krishna? Like means it is in him, that is why we have, that is the meaning of originate.
Krishna is very fearful of Yashoda's stick. Very, very fearful. You know? So Krishna also displays fear in his pastimes, and that's why he's the origin of all these qualities. 6.
Arashya saptapurve chatvaro manvastata madbhava manasa jata yesham loka ima praja. The 7 great sages and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them.
Yeah, so now Krishna is actually speaking about the same thing, that there are 7 great sages, the Saptarishis, and before them the 4 other great sages, the 4 Kumaras, and Manus, 14 Manus, come from me. So these 25 persons, 7 plus 4 plus 14, 25, they all come from me. They are great personalities and they are great Prajapatis, but they will come to know about me only when they hear about me, only from hearing. And Prabhupada explains that in the purport. He says, all these 25 great sages are known as the patriarchs of the living entities all over the universe. There are innumerable universes and innumerable planets within each universe, and each planet is full of population of different varieties. All of them are born of these 25 patriarchs. Brahma underwent penance for 1,000 years of the demigods before he realized, by the grace of Krishna, how to create. And then from Brahma came Sanat, Sanatan and Sanat Kumar, then Rudra, and then 7 sages. And in this way, all the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas are born out of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Brahma also came to know about Krishna only by Krishna's mercy. So all these 25 great personalities, or whoever comes to know about Krishna, is only by his mercy. Next, 7.
Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate nat samshayaha One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt.
So he's saying that one who actually is convinced that, I am so great, I am so powerful, one who's convinced of my opulences will engage in unalloyed devotional service, because then that person would realize that who is this person called Krishna and what are we meant to do? What is our relationship with this great personality? So Prabhupada in the purport says, the highest summit of spiritual perfection is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is firmly convinced of the different opulences of the Supreme Lord, he cannot engage in devotional service. How can we engage in devotional service to somebody if we don't think they are exceptional, if they are, very different from us, much more powerful than us? The whole idea comes only when we realize how great Krishna is. If somebody is just like us, how can we have the mood of devotion for such a person? Right? So Prabhupada is saying that generally people know that God is great, but they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. When one factually knows the opulences of the Supreme, there is no alternative but to surrender to him. And this factual knowledge, Prabhupada says, can be found in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures. So when we read these scriptures, the whole idea is to develop our relationship with Krishna, to actually become attracted to Krishna, to develop this desire to revive that lost relationship. So that is the whole idea of reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Srimad Bhagavatam and all other scriptures. Then basically the reason now Krishna, the Acharyas say that Krishna is talking about his opulence because he wants to explain his opulences to Krishna, to Arjuna. So this particular shloka is an impetus for Arjuna to inquire from Krishna about his opulences, which he'll do in the 16th verse. This shloka acts as an impetus. And the last paragraph, Prabhupada says, these are some of the opulences of the Supreme Lord. When one is firmly convinced of them, he accepts Krishna with great faith and without any doubt, and he engages in devotional service. So then he says, one should not neglect to understand fully how great Krishna is. So one should always make an endeavor to know more and more about Krishna, the more we'll know, the more we'll be absorbed, the more we'll be attracted. Next, 8. Now starts the Chaturshloki, the most important verses of this chapter. And that's in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, please go ahead.
Aham sarvasa prabho, matah sarvasa pravrati, iti matva bhajante ma, buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. These the wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Yeah, so these 4 shlokas, Chaturshloki, are about Ananya Bhakti, about pure devotional service. The first 2, 8 and 9, will talk about the characteristics of pure devotional service. Like, we'll talk about how Krishna, who's Krishna, how he's the origin of everything, and the characteristic of pure devotional service. And 10 and 11 will talk about activities of his devotees and how Krishna reciprocates with them. What do devotees do? And what is Krishna's reciprocation? That is 10 and 11, the last 2 of Chaturshloki. So here in this particular purport, Prabhupada actually presents a lot of different examples from Shruti and Smriti to support that Krishna is actually the source of everything. So he uses from Shruti Shastras and also from Smriti Shastras. In the first paragraph, in the beginning, he says, a learned scholar who had studied Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. And then Prabhupada presents proofs from various different shastras. Then in the end, the last paragraph, he says, Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he's called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I'm the original source of all. Everything is under me and no one is above me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna, and one who understands Krishna in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master with references from Vedic literature engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. Next.
Vacchitta madgat prana bodhayanta parasparam kathyantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
These devotees are now, this verse explains the activities of these devotees. And these devotees, for them, Krishna is their life, and Krishna Katha is their nourishment. Krishna is their life, and Krishna Katha is their nourishment. And they're always engaged in bodhayantaha, which means always enlightening one another. When they meet each other, they only try to enlighten each other by talking about Krishna. And tushyanticha ramanticha, that means they become so pleased, and also they experience transcendental bliss in these exchanges about Krishna, in Krishna Katha. So Prabhupada, in this purport, another very wonderful purport, he says, pure devotees whose characteristics are mentioned here engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So this actually tells us what's their absorption. Their absorption is Krishna and his pastimes. That's all. Day in and day out, they just discuss this. And sometimes, you will see, like, there are certain, like, two very exalted devotees, when they come in touch with each other, then I've seen this, they greet each other with shlokas glorifying Krishna. One speaks a shloka and the other speaks a shloka, and then this one continues and the other continues. It's blissful just to see how, they are, in each other's company, their remembrance and absorption of Krishna is coming out. That's how the conversation goes. One says something great about Krishna, the other one says by supplementing it, then the first one again says something, and this is how it goes. This is how the devotees who are really absorbed in Krishna, that's how they deal with each other. And Prabhupada says, in the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself. And in the mature stage, they're actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection, which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. And then he says that there are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them, there is a few who are fortunate to meet a pure devotee and get a chance to understand devotional service. Brahman Brahmite Kona Bhagyavanajiv, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. It is only by the mercy of Guru that one gets Krishna, and by the mercy of Krishna, first by the mercy of Krishna, one gets a bona fide Guru, and by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, Prabhupada is explaining this Bhakti Lata Bij. He's saying this devotional service is just like a seed. And if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting, which is like the watering process, that seed fructifies, just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering. The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahmajyoti effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also, that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as a plant grows fruit and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits And the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. And this is basically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes this to Rupa Goswami in it comes in Madhya chapter 19, where Rupa Shiksha is there. So in that particular chapter, actually Mahaprabhu gives a great detail on how this thing really happens. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. So this is what happens as our attraction and absorption grows more and more in devotional service. We will come to a platform where that is going to that the food is not going to nourish us. It is Krishna Katha which is going to nourish us. Krishna Katha which will nourish the body. So one comes to that platform. Sometimes, I've seen example of devotees who eat very little. Very exalted devotees, they eat very little, maybe like a pomegranate and a banana in the whole day, but they're still very stout. So how do you really understand that? Because they are being nourished by Krishna Katha. It's Krishna Katha that will nourish the body of a devotee. Then Prabhupada says in the end, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association. So for a realized soul, the topics of Krishna are always very, very relishable, and there is always freshness. They never get bored. It's always fresh for them. The more they hear about Krishna, the more they relish. So that is the state. So we will stop here and continue on Monday, God willing, from the 10th shloka, which is the third of the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. If anyone has any last minute question, we can take that. Otherwise, we'll see you all. And yeah, I have to show you the picture. Okay, let me put my camera. Can you see the picture?
Yes, Mataji.
This is a picture of Mahaprabhu taking the combined form of Radha and Krishna. Okay. All right.
Where can we get it?
I don't know, because this actually belongs to my teacher. She got it painted and she allowed me to take a copy and print it. So, I don't know. I mean, if anybody wants it, I'll have to ask for her permission. And then I can see if she allows, then I can share it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Mataji,
Yes.
I have a question. Mataji, that Bhakti Lata beach and the fruit and the plant goes to the lotus feet of Krishna. What is that analogy? It's actually happened like
Yeah, Bhakti,
sometime.
the devotion in our heart, it grows like that. It grows, and we come to a level where we can actually surpass these material coverings. And then the devotee whose heart is fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So actually you can see this, if you read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the journey of Gopakumar is similar to this, that he goes through different planetary systems, and then because the heart is fixed in Krishna and at his lotus feet in Goloka Vrindavan, he goes to Vaikuntha, different planets, but still by hearing and chanting more and more, he finally reaches and takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. That's what happens.
So Mataji, physically that devotee stays here and his consciousness goes to Krishna like that.
Yeah,
By
that's
penetrating and go via Vaikunthas, different Vaikunthas like that.
Yeah, I mean,
How to understand
one
it?
becomes so absorbed in Krishna that no other form of the Lord attracts him. Prabhupada, like he mentions in his purport, that our devotee is not even enamored by the four-arm form of the Lord who rules on Vaikuntha. A devotee is not enamored by even that form, because the absorption is so fixed in Krishna that nothing else pleases. And the heart is always yearning to take shelter, to be there with Krishna. So this is the progression of our devotion and progression of our consciousness and heart.
Mataji, as I think I'm too much material, so I'll always that line catches to my consciousness. Like, what are the fruits of that? It's written
This
here.
is
The
love.
plant devotional
Love of
service
God.
also.
Love of God. Love of God. Prema.
Prema Bhakti. Finally, the goal.
Anandita.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, here it's written in the second paragraph of 10.9. In the preliminary stage, they relish from the service itself. They relish the pleasure, and later on, they are actually situated. So does it mean that initially we all are being told to get engaged in the services somehow or other, maybe by psychophysical nature or whatever your Siksha Guru or Guru tells you? And then later on, once we are so absorbed in the service, we are already relishing what we are doing.
Yeah, because in the beginning, we don't really understand the relationship. That relationship is not really established. So by serving, slowly first the purification of senses also take place. And also there is reciprocation of Krishna, because whatever little we do in his service, he reciprocates with that. And slowly as our absorption grows, then whether there is service, no service, a person is fully absorbed in Krishna, because that relationship has now become mature.
Yeah. Mataji, I have one point to ask you regarding tolerance that Jayadvaita Prabhu has asked. Recently, I don't know what happened exactly in Mayapur, but my Guru Maharaj was constantly speaking in his lectures that we will not tolerate abuse. Especially he was talking about some child abuse or like that. I don't know what happened exactly. So, and even I've heard from one of my god sister also that something happened in her life, that something was always happening, but and her Siksha Guru was always standing to tolerate. But one time, she thought that if I would share the same thing, then she would again say to me, tolerate. But that time she didn't say. That time she said, no, you should not tolerate now. At least actually when it comes on the physical level or like that. So in these situations, we should discuss with our Siksha Guru or our own Guru if he or she is present, right?
Thank you, Mataji, for bringing this up. It's a very important point. And when we had this discussion, Jayadvaita Prabhu, this point didn't really come up, but it's a very important point. Tolerance, when we talk about unlimited tolerance, is for ourselves. But when somebody else is being harmed or some other devotee is being harmed, it is not advised that you tolerate. When we see in the case of Nityanand Prabhu and Mahaprabhu, when Nityanand was attacked by Jagai and Madhai, Mahaprabhu didn't tolerate that. And Mahaprabhu is the one who's given us this mantra, Trinadapi Sunichen, Terorapi Sahishnuna, right? So similarly, it is said that if you see that some act is actually breaking the faith of some other devotees or harming those devotees, then we don't tolerate. But when it comes to ourselves, this quality of tolerance is for ourselves. This unlimited tolerance is for ourselves. It is not for others. A devotee does not tolerate when somebody else is being harmed, some other devotee is being harmed, or God or Krishna is being blasphemed. The tolerance is not to be exercised then. Prabhupada used to get, if a Mayavadi would come up and say something about Krishna, Prabhupada would call such a person rascal on his face, would not tolerate. So the whole idea of tolerance is for ourselves in our own situations. Right?
And
not for abuse.
In context, if we are put in a situation where we have to save someone's life by using violence, I think we are okay to also take that challenge.
Yes. We are okay to take that challenge, but under the shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. because sometimes, our mind may actually mislead us. So it's always good to take shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra and then act. So, Hanuman did that. He burned the whole of Lanka. He did it. He didn't just say, oh, okay, you know what, I'm just, whatever they may do, whatever they are doing, I'm just going to pay my obeisances. No. When it comes to protection of others, we take a stand. That we don't tolerate. Is that okay? Anandita, does it help?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, thank you so much. Mataji, I want to take 1 to 3 minutes of your time. I don't know how much time it will need you to reply. But this is what I wanted to ask. Recently, this thing was going so much in my mind. When we open a YouTube video to hear the lectures or whatever, sometimes some short ads comes in between, right? And somehow or other, you cannot skip it and you just see it. So these days, I have seen so many ads like regarding child abuse and so many abuse in many forms, and those organizations were wanting us to help. So we see that, like Prabhupada says, that Krishna consciousness can be fit in every area of this material world, right? And what I was thinking, that being the so popular, renowned spiritual organization like ISKCON, we can ask, persons like me can ask for so many fields where we can enter, and where we can be a help to every corners of the society. But so this is a very long topic, but in this area, my heart was really crying like anything when I see those, when I hear or read or like whatever, where I see these things like this, very detrimental things are happening with the children and all the levels of persons, be it elders or child or whatever. It really kills my heart and burns like my heart like anything. So what is the responsibility of what the two questions are there? How ISKCON is looking to reform these things, and what are our responsibilities?
The whole idea behind preaching is this. The whole idea of spreading Krishna consciousness is this, that, we educate people on what is the right thing to do. We educate people that karma has, it comes back. It's not that you do something and you're okay. It will come back, and it will come back multiple folds. So, the whole idea of spreading Krishna consciousness is this. At the same time, we have to be aware that's how Kali Yuga is designed. In Kali Yuga, things are going to deteriorate. As more and more time will pass, things are going to become even uglier. So this is the nature of Kali Yuga. So we do whatever we can, and things that are not in our control, we just learn to accept and focus on our Krishna consciousness, focus on our preaching. And that's what we do. Okay?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry to keep you late. And God willing, we'll see you on Monday and try to cover the rest of chapter 10. Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.